Hello, all you stinky exotic fish boys. Welcome back to Erico Blueberry. It's an unassuming Destiny podcast. My name is chillybin.
I'm Meckii, and I held in a burp during that, and I think it picked up.
Do you want to let it out now? I didn't hear it, so I think
I
we're
did
fine.
one of those. I did one of those throat burps. You know, it kind of escapes.
Yeah.
But Discord lit up like my microphone picked it up.
Okay. I don't think I registered it in my headphones, but then again, I was talking, so it might be on the audio track, but that's easy for me to fix. I got two audio tracks. I could just cut that bit out, and I can save that for a ringtone.
No, you know how YouTube shows you the most replayed sections of a video? It's just people going back to see if they can hear the burp.
Yeah. I feel like I should actually go and cut out that clip from last week with the Tina Turner news getting broken and just like, I don't know what to do with it, but I want to have that as a separate piece.
I clipped it. I went back and clipped it because I was going to use it to promote the podcast and then completely forgot. But I'll download it and use it on Instagram to promote the pod.
Yeah. Sometimes when I'm editing, I'll lose focus, especially in moments like that, and just like watch it and kind of like have a little chuckle to myself. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm trying to do work now. That was like, that one got me again, watching it back.
It reminded me a little bit when I watched it of, you know, the bit in The Simpsons where they keep replaying where Ralph's heart breaks. You can see the dots connecting in my head. I'm like,
what the fuck? Yes. Now, Season of the Deep. We are week 2. We got it's a fairly I would say light week in terms of in-game story updates. But we've got a few bits and pieces to talk about. It won't be as long probably as last week's like hour 40, I think it ended up as, because it was like, here's a new season. Here's literally everything that we have looked at in the space of 2 days. The whole lot of new content. But before we get to that, I need to give you a very spicy week 1 update from my end of things. So last season, due to a bug, a bunch of us gilded Dredgen in the first week of the season, because all you had to do was like partially complete one of the gilding triumphs, and it was like, oops, here's everything. And then I don't know at what point I decided to do this. But I gilded Dredgen in the first week of the season.
Legitimately this time.
Yeah, no, I put in the yards, and that's not even like bonus infamy. So like resetting the rank took a little bit. Took most of what I did last week was play Gambit, and yeah, the weapon kill triumph was scout rifles. So I just got that out of the way first, just like 100 scout rifle kills, cool. And then I got back on my usual bullshit of disorienting grenades, throwing hammers, xenophage, and I was a legitimate menace. I think the first triumph I completed was Good Company, which is the one where you get one for like not dying, banking the most motes, or doing the most damage across all combatant types or whatever it is. That one I got done first because I was not dying, and then every now and then I would get one of the other ones at the same time in a match. I'm good at Gambit. I don't know what to tell you. And I like it as a game mode. And it was also something that was easy for me to do while like hanging out with folks who are also playing Destiny, not necessarily playing Gambit together, or I'm watching something in the background or whatever it might be. But it was also just a little bit of a challenge I issued myself of like, how hard would this be to do in the first week? And the answer is, it's not hard. It just is maybe more Gambit than I want to play in a single week. But it's done, so I don't have to worry about that this season, as opposed to some seasons where I'll do it the night before the season ends.
Yeah. When that popped up, I was like, the fuck?
The best thing is like I knew it. I knew there's a bit of a delay between gilding it in the game and Charlemagne picking it up and posting it into the Discord server. So before that happened, like as soon as I gilded it, I went in there and just wrote, hey, you guys want to see something really funny? And then I just waited. And the responses were basically a lot of, hey, what the fuck? What's wrong with you?
You good, Herbie?
Yeah,
You want to talk about it?
I had a good time. And then that means I've like also got the season ritual weapon that you get out of for like reaching legend rank before you complete it, which is basically a light version of Dead Man's Tale. It's quite similar actually to the scout rifle you get out of Spire of the Watcher in terms of like look and sound, but the perk combinations on it, because it's got that thing where it's like there's two sets of two you can choose between. And there's some goofy stuff going on there. One of the options is reconstruction, so it just constantly jams more bullets in there.
Yeah.
I think there was explosive payload. Opening shot. Like it was pretty good fun.
There's some goofy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a solid little scout rifle. So yeah, I am now a 9-time gilded dredgen. Week 1 of the season. I don't know if anyone in the tower has noticed and been like, that guy sucks. But
he needs some milk.
I need something. I need help. But now I know it's possible. I don't know if I'll do it again, but if I've got nothing else to do, because the other thing too is like this season not having the pinnacle grind to do because I finished that last season.
It frees up a lot of time.
God, it frees up more, like it relieves more pressure on me than I realized. Of like, I used to be like, okay, I'm going to log in, I'm going to do like some easy pinnacles kind of early in the week. Maybe on the weekend I'll do one of the ones that takes a bit more work or needs a fire team. But this, I was just like, I'm going to do a bunch of seasonal activities until I run out of shit to do, and then I'm only playing Gambit.
Yeah, I appreciate the removal of the grind.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, and I think I definitely expressed this a little bit towards the end of last season. I was starting to get a little bit, not burnt out, but just destinied out. Because towards the end of the season, it did genuinely for a little bit feel like a chore.
Yeah.
But that's just because also like I had so much going on in life.
Yes.
That like I was tired, but I was like, I need to do all my pinnacles this week. And it kind of felt like a bit of a slog. Now that that's gone, jumping on Destiny feels more like a choice than like an obligation.
Yeah.
And
it's also
really
nice.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's also nice around the beginning of a new season. There's tons of fresh shit to do.
Yeah.
But I think that's generally where I'm at now, is like between trying to hit titles and get triumphs to guild things, between trying to do seasonal activities and unlock stuff, trying to do dungeons. Like there's already so much I'm trying to do. Arbitrarily adding 10 to my power level feels like the least interesting of those.
Yeah.
But it's not that you need to do it either. Because you can certainly do in-game content without hitting pinnacle cap, because your artifact power will, consistently just push you up.
Yeah, but it's more so just the almost like the pressure to do it just so that you can do higher level stuff sometimes without suffering.
Yeah, but I think as long as you hit powerful cap, you can basically do anything. Because you're talking about a difference of 10, and if you play enough, because sometimes you're just at the mercy of RNG. You might be sitting there on like, I need 2 more pinnacles to get to the cap, but I'm still able to go and do raids and dungeons and whatever because the artifact power level is pushing me up enough because I've played enough to, get +6 or +10 or whatever out of that. And that just keeps building through you playing the game. Whereas you could just get unlucky and never hit pinnacle cap because they keep dropping in the wrong spot. And that sucks. That's not a good feeling at all. But yeah, shout out to that not being a thing this season.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Speaking of Gambit, before we get to this week's stuff, there was the classic, like, you've done this week's seasonal story mission, go to the helm or the vendor or whatever, and there's like a radio transmission. This one was Zavala
and Drifter
having a conversation. Yeah, and Zavala says, you think the 9, because like the drifter is like basically, you know, referring to the 9 a lot of the time, and like, oh, everything's, it's basically the stand-in for like God and miraculous events and things like that. And he's going like, Zavala saying, you think the 9 were telling you to run Gambit for this, that they saw everything coming and that's how they chose to prepare us? Like, just roasting a man's entire identity. And I love to see that stinky rat boy taking down a pig.
Well, I love my stinky rat man, my thrift man.
Yes.
My op shop boy. My stinky little op shop boy.
The drifter.
My damp little dumpster boy.
My damp lad.
Man smells like a Discord mod's bedroom. Sweat and mildew.
It sounds like wet cheese.
The thing is, I love the drifter, but I bully him probably as much as I bully Crow.
Yeah. Yeah, because he says and does bad things.
He's creepy and I love him.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, right? He was already equipped for all of this.
Yeah.
Just by chance.
He just had a ship with a giant, like, ball of taken shit behind it.
Yeah. And then on top of that, he's just like, hey, so, like, this is similar technology to what I'm using to run Gambit.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see his logic, but then it's also like, yeah, it's that, like, blind faith. Like, I've been chosen by the, you know, the pinnacle of my faith to represent it. You know, he's having a manic episode. I say that as someone with bipolar.
He's seeing the face of God in a taken
He's
goblin.
having a manic episode. He thinks the 9 are communicating with him.
Through Gambit. And I would know.
But I can see the logic of him being like, hey, oh, the stars, like, it's all lining up. They knew it was coming.
Yes.
Big scary lady knew it was coming.
Well, yeah. The emissary of the 9. Not even the 9. Like, we don't know what the 9 look like. That's just a blue lady.
Just big lady.
In the sky at the end of prophecy. Like, what are we doing? Who are you? Why are you there? The other thing that you finally got to, fishing.
I finally did some fishing.
We all love our rods, our tackle, our bait, and putting the fish in the fish tank at the end of it.
Yeah.
The slam dunk.
Getting the fish tube.
So aggressive. Yeah, I think we've all like had our moments this week where things are just a bit too busy or hectic, and what I want to do is play Destiny, but not really. So I'm going to go fish. It's very, very simple. It's easy to catch fish perfectly. You just press the button, and it's like yoink, and you get a colored fish.
I had a moment this week where I was like, it's 7:30. I'll go fishing while I'm eating dinner and like listening to a podcast. And then I look over and it's 9:45 because I'm just E.
That is it. Yeah. Oh, it's so, I mean, you do have to like go pick up the fish, but that is all fishing is you press your interact button twice and you catch a fish.
It's also gotten to the point where I know the sound of the bobber.
Oh, okay.
So like I've been actively watching something and I hear it go.
You don't
I'm just
even
like,
look.
E. Yeah.
Oh, you are one with the fish at this point. Women want you, fish fear you.
Hive fear me. Fish want me.
Yes. I still have yet to see an exotic fish. I don't know what that experience looks like.
Same.
But I did have the triumph popped for getting one, and I think that's because someone near me did it. I don't think that's how that's supposed to work.
I've had a few triumphs pop. Ooh, and my throat popped too. I have had a few triumphs pop, and I've been like,
I didn't do that.
Excuse me? Like, does it count everyone in the same pond as a fire team? Like,
it shouldn't, right?
But it do.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of triumphs I've done where I know for a fact I have not done them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently fishing has an AoE. for triumphs.
Yeah. What a weird game.
But yeah, it's great. And then occasionally you're like, fuck, I have to go run some Vanguard.
Gotta get some more bait.
Playlist to get more bait.
Yeah. And also, like, if a public event spawns in the location you're in, the fishing spot just disappears.
Didn't know that. So I spent 45 minutes looking for the one on the Throne World and ended up messaging you being like, hey, am I stupid? Where the fuck is the pond? And you're like, oh, it goes away during public events. And I look over and there's a public event. And I'm like, you fuckers.
I think, so because like when you do the intro quest, it shows you where all the fishing locations are. And when I went to do the Throne World one, it wasn't anywhere. And there also was no public event. I feel like one must have just finished. Because then I saw the message pop up that says like a fishing location has spawned or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, that's weird. Because I don't think I'd realized the public event thing yet. And I was just like, oh, so they're not always just here. Which I guess makes sense.
Kind of forces you to go do the public event so it goes quicker.
True. And like often we'll get like seasonal challenges that are like do events, do activities in the Cosmodrome or the EDZ or whatever. And like public events contribute to that. So you might as well. They take like 5 minutes.
Mm.
It's better to do them like that when they come up, other than what I usually end up doing is like, oh, I've got a triumph I need to complete for something that is do public events in this location. So I'm just doing laps of the entire map as they spawn, like I did on Europa, trying to get one of those triumphs done. Just like, oh, it was a one specific public event for Europa, and once it spawns, you basically chase it around the entire map. That is painful.
Oh yeah, I did that with you guys.
Yeah.
One night.
Yeah, it was like a specific public event that we had to find for something. I don't even remember what. All I know is we did it for like hours. Because it would, once it spawned one, it would go like maybe 4 or 5 in a row, and then it would stop, and then you had to like basically go to orbit and come back in to have another chance at resetting the rotation. God, that was boring. Thank God for
being stood down for most of Beyond Light.
Yeah, we got real good at Destiny. All right, this week, Season of the Deep. This deep on Season of the Week.
Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Yes. I don't remember much about the seasonal story quest this week.
There wasn't a lot.
I mean, it was a new location. It was a new boss. But fairly similar as these things tend to be, which is fine. I still enjoyed it.
Story beat wise, we more or less confirmed that Xivu Arath has been terrorizing Sloane.
Yes.
And Asa's kind of helped drown out Xivu's voice a little bit with Sloane. So yeah.
I'm just now remembering I took a bunch of screenshots of like subtitles that I thought were interesting. Oh no, this one's not great. This was during, so like you do the named mission version of the deep dive, and this one was called Mayday Mayday. And like Saint 14 is on the comms a bit, but one of the things that I saw fit to take a screenshot of is he says, "No, today I sit in chair, but is good chair."
You know what's really funny? I took a screenshot of that exact same moment.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was funny.
Because it was something about like, I think Sloane or someone was saying like, why don't you come in the water and figure this shit out? And he's like, no, I sit in a chair today.
No, today I sit in chair, but is good chair.
At the end of the mission, like before you go through the portal to talk to Asa, Zavala and Saint have a conversation in front of the portal, and Saint says, "You worry for the deputy commander. She is strong, and her friend is very large. They will be okay."
I love Saint so much.
He's so good. And these are all just, yeah.
I just screenshot a lot of the shit that Xivu says.
Yeah, just all caps screaming at us.
But also, like, she's spitting bars. Your Neil is a brutal, efficient violence. Homie, are you writing sleep tokens?
Yeah, am I gonna see you at the Polaris gig in September?
Are you writing
fronting for one of the
metal
bands? Like, what's going on?
She's out here writing deathcore lyrics.
Yeah, legitimately. But yeah, I think, like, if we can't remember it, We can't remember it, and neither of us took notes, so here we are. It's
basically, I mean, from what I remember of Arsa speaking through Sloane, it was basically just confirming that I believe by the sounds of it, the witness or Zivu on behalf of the witness wiped Arsa's people out, or people, fish, whales, species.
sure.
Something about a silent god or a big god. Something about a god in there.
I think silent god was mentioned, and I can only assume that means the traveler.
Maybe, yeah.
Which would make sense. The traveler's been around a bit and kind of ignored a bunch of different races. And has not really done a lot with us to date, except gone into low Earth orbit.
Yeah, just hung out.
And then get a shape cut out the face of it.
Gave us powers.
Yeah. But it's not said, hey, I'm God, what's up? So silent.
Yeah.
Not inactive. Yeah. Yes, and then the veil containment situation. So last week there was a mission just called Veil Containment. You go in there and you fight some enemies, and then you get to like the control room that overlooks the Veil kind of arena where you fight Callus at the end of the campaign. You pick up an audio log from Maya Sundaresh, this week's version of that. Oh yeah, because also like in last week's one, you like go down into the arena, you fight a tormentor. It's a whole battle. I think there might be 2 tormentors. But this week's one is you just load into that control room, you listen to 2 audio logs, and then you leave. There is no fighting at all. It's kind of a nice little way to just like give us lore that isn't lore books. It's actual. There's audio logs, but then there's like I think Osiris reacting to the messages, and there's a bit of like interplay there.
And Nimbus.
Nimbus, yes.
Nimbus as well, because Nimbus is like, hey, wait, maybe everything we were told hasn't been true.
Yeah. And
he says something about Maya's recounting of moving, finding the veil and then setting up around the veil conflicts with what's her face's history logs.
Oh yeah, I think is that this week's or is that last week's? That might be the second one from this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first one is like another message from Chioma SE, and it's actually starting to talk about what the veil is, like physically speaking. Saying things like it's an electromagnetic anomaly, it has no mass, but it has a tangible surface area. Then they say some like this just straight science fiction proper noun bullshit of like it's like a thesis statement to the von Neumann-Wigner hypothesis. Like, is that a real thing? Is that something I haven't Googled it? It might be. Like, they have invoked the name of Einstein-Rosen bridges in Destiny Lightfall, and that's a real physics concept. So that's a fun time. Yeah, saying it's definitely paracausal, like the Traveler. Maya calls it the Veil. This is kind of like historical audio logs, so this was them kind of first, I guess, studying it. But then she says this very interesting thing. She says she heard the name in a whisper when she looked at it. When she asked her who whispered, she said it was her own voice. So that's wild. And that makes me think back to like, I think it's the end of Shadowkeep. You like have this interaction with what is actually the darkness, but you like your character goes into the Black Garden where the Garden of Salvation raid occurs, and you're talking to yourself. And so that to me feels like a parallel there of if you're hearing it in your own voice, there's something kind of paracausal involved there. That feels similar. Yeah, and then something at the end about like the electromagnetic radiation coming off the veil is causing psychological distress in the exos that went down there.
Yeah. And then Chiso says that all the exos have experienced brain death at one point.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't think this is a good power source. Maya wants to use it as a power source. I would rather set up wind turbines, but Maya's saying that in the long term, this is the best. Not sure what to do. All the exos have experienced brain death. maybe we fucked up by, leaving
Yeah.
Braytech with the Exos to begin, like just a lot of hesitation. And I think that's where Nimbus comes in and goes, hey, so all of this conflicts with what we have with our historical record keeping.
A little bit of what is it, revisionist history going on there.
Yeah, like I found that really interesting when Nimbus is like, hey, so this directly contradicts everything we have in our history books.
Well, you better fucking...
None of this has been mentioned.
You better get on that Wikipedia edit button real fast, my guy.
Well, one of, like, I know we don't like to theorize too much, but like one of my theories is maybe not corrupted, but may has been consumed or like enveloped by the veil and is being motivated and manipulated to do, like, set up around it and set up a society around it. So it's Maya who set the history books, not Chiso. So maybe it's a little bit of a, unreliable narrator situation where history has been written from Maya's perspective and Maya sees this as a positive step.
Yes. But yeah, consider this your reminder for those of you that play Destiny and are up to date with stuff like this. Check in on this mission weekly. It seems like at the end of the one last week, it was like, we'll need time to process this, come back soon, and we'll have more, which, is Destiny speak for come back every week and we'll give you a little bit more. And yeah, further evidence to my old theory about, them explaining the veil over the span of the next year.
Feeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it, as much as it would have been nice to have some of this in the actual campaign and like give us a reason to give a shit about the veil in the first place, it wasn't necessary. It's a lot of like context of why it's here, what it was originally thought to be for. Yeah, it feels like maybe there was a couple of bits missing out of the story to kind of like, again, hint or tease at some of that. But I don't think any of this is like necessary to tell the Lightfall story.
Yeah.
But hey, maybe we'll come across some stuff in the next few weeks where it's like, oh yeah, damn, this should have actually been in the story. This would have been sick. This would have actually really helped. And now I'm invested some 6 months later or whatever. But yeah, that's veil containment. That's fishing. That's seasonal bits.
Before we jump onto Dungan, I think my Grom trees are here.
Yes.
Sergey's losing his fucking mind. Yes. I don't know if that's picking up.
It definitely is.
Wow, cool. Good episode. I'll be right back. I hate that his balking picked up. Oh, joy. Last 10 minutes is going to be a nightmare.
It's fine. We have a history of barking dogs on this show. All right.
Dungan!
Let's talk about this fucking dungeon. What is it? What is it called? Ghosts in the Deep?
Ghosts of the Deep.
Ghosts of the Deep. I don't remember. I should have written this down.
It's Ghost of the Deep.
Of the Deep. Yes, Google says that is correct. Ghosts of the Deep.
Ghost in my deep.
Yes. So this is latest dungeon set in Titan archaeology.
Yes.
How many times did I run it this week? I think 3. Because we did it, then we ran it to get someone else through, and then I did the same thing on, let's say it was like Tuesday or Wednesday or something this week.
According to Charlemagne, 3 times.
Yeah, cool. Before we just talk about what the dungeon is, I really like this dungeon. I think it's pretty fucking neat. It doesn't waste a lot of time either. I will probably a lot contrast this with Spire of the Watcher. So what Spire of the Watcher does when you first load in is you have to you have that opening kind of encounter although you don't get a chest at the end of it, where you're like hooking up all the wires to open the door to get into the thing. To teach you
mechanic,
teaches you the mechanic. There's a lot of enemies you have to deal with, but it's not a like registered encounter. There's no chest at the end of it. It's not part of the triumph list for like completing the dungeon. Ghosts of the Deep just loads you immediately into the first encounter. Granted, you have to like, traverse the map to get over to it, but it's like, I don't know, 10-second sparrow ride. And you are just in it. And that first thing you do will get you a chest at the end of it. And it is kind of a combination of like Wrathborn hunts, with a little bit of like Pit of Heresy stuff mixed in there with like symbol recognition and matching symbols, and those I think are probably the closest touchstones. I don't think I'm missing anything mechanically, but it's a lot of stuff we have seen before. Very
reminiscent of some of the Throne World stuff, and then the symbol touching or the symbol matching we've had through a whole bunch of different stuff through Destiny. I mean, Last Wish, all of that shit.
Yes. Yeah, but
match card kind of games in it.
Like, as someone who's run Pit of Heresy a whole bunch, like you get pretty familiar with the symbols the hive symbols that you use for that, and this is the same set. Although I think you're only using 6 of them.
They use the same symbols in the deep dives too. At the end, where you have to look at the symbol in the middle and then go over to the.
I will be honest. I'm kind of not paying attention to that a lot of the time. Things just seem to work out because other people know what they're doing, and it's been 2 weeks and I still haven't worked it out for myself. But this one's a little bit more hands-on. That first encounter, you've got to like essentially activate 4 statues by going and like killing. You have to like progress through killing ads in a few locations until you take down a hive guardian. And you crush their ghost. That gives you a buff that lasts for about a minute or so. Called like Vestige of Light, and you run that back. Use Deep Sight, that's back, to reveal the statues, and you find them all with a matching symbol, and you dunk it, and that is kind of the loop for that first encounter, and kind of gets remixed and added to for the second and third. That opening environment is kind of, it feels more EDZ in terms of like the way it looks and the rocks and the trees and stuff.
Yeah, actually.
But also like that's how the arcology used to look. It's just been a few years since we've been in there.
Yeah, also like the arcology is basically an artificial environment, hey?
Yeah, exactly.
It's an environment under a glass dome, and they're using the trees and stuff to oxygenate the area, and so it's like if they're taking samples from the EDZ and Earth to plant on other planets, kind of like what we see in the time tears on Mars and stuff.
Yeah, true.
It's like it's going to be the same environment because they're taking saplings and samples from Earth, so makes sense.
Yeah, and then as you load in, like Sloane is her like radio is breaking up, but she's kind of referencing what it looks like is happening there, of like some weird hive ritual is happening, and then a radio cuts out, and that's kind of when you're getting into the first encounter. You clear through that. You kind of do a bunch of traversal through the arcology. You do a bunch of going into the water, with some notable differences to the way the water works in the seasonal activities.
Bubble no come back.
Namely, the bubbles are not persistent. So when you do salvage and deep dive, when someone else pops a bubble, it stays there so that you can also get it. But
in this one.
No, with this dungeon, as soon as anyone pops it, it's gone. Like it will respawn after a bit. But what that means is you either need to like space out and kind of ration who gets bubbles, or you need to stay bunched up because there's a bit of a like radius around them where it will refill everybody's pressure meter.
Go one by one.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like especially in those ones where you're going like down these big wide tubes, there's usually kind of 3 bubbles at different distances down them, and so it'll just be like, okay, I'm gonna get that one, you get this one, and we kind of spread them out that way, and that kind of works. But yeah, it's a little the platforming on the first run through, I found it pretty fucking frustrating because you're moving slow because you're doing the underwater thing. The bubbles are pretty spread out. You don't know where you're supposed to be going.
And sometimes someone take your bumble.
Yeah.
My bubble.
And yeah, especially with some of those like rooms you have to find your way through, whether it's the lighting or the coloring that they've applied to the textures and things like that. It was hard for me to know at a quick glance as I'm trying not to drown where I'm supposed to go. And then there was a couple spots where like a lot of it is like walk off the edge of this thing, go down a long way to the next bit. And there was a couple times I went to do that and then realized, oh, this was actually where I was supposed to stop and not go down. And then one of them I fell through a hole and just kept going. And then you have to do that whole section again.
It's very easy to get turned around down there too.
Yeah.
Especially there was a few times where so you go down into like more Titan architecture. So like what we see in the deep dive with tubes and bubbles and glass panels and stuff like that. There was a few times where I'd go up with a fan propulsion and pop out and think I've done a loop.
Yeah. But you're not conscious of how far down you've gone?
Yeah, and I thought I was back at the beginning and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And then I turn around and you guys are there and I'm like, oh. I think there was a few times where I was like, oh, fuck. And you guys were like, what? And I turned around and you're just standing behind me.
This is where you're supposed to be.
I thought I went in the loop. I was back at the beginning.
I had a couple of those moments the first time. But I will say, like, having now done it another couple of times, once you roughly know the direction you're supposed to be going, it's actually pretty easy. Like,
yeah,
it's go down, go out through this gap in the glass wall, just go over the edge down, and then up through the fan. That's like one of them, right? And you just kind of learn that way quicker than I thought you would. Well, I did.
Yeah, I'm just reminding myself of the different sections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're going through sections of like Throne World reminiscent hive architecture. Your real gross bone looking bullshit everywhere.
Yeah, very reminiscent of
which makes sense because
Sab's Throne World.
The Hive Guardians are all throughout this dungeon, so that kind of makes sense to me that there's some overlap there.
Yeah, we missed something important where we were just like, hey, yeah, so you go through some hive architecture. They crashed a dreadnought into the fucking sea.
Yes.
That's the big reveal as you go down one of the tunnels and you look out and you're like, that is a big dreadnought.
Yeah.
That's a big fucking ship.
And I mean, there's only really been one dreadnought, right?
Well, I mean like a hive ship. I call them all the dreadnoughts, but it's a big hive ship that they've crashed.
Yeah, the dreadnought is a specific, very specific one of those.
They're all dreadnoughts to me. But it's a big hive ship and they've plowed it into the fucking sea.
Yeah.
So there's definitely that weighted implication there of like there is something down there that they really want.
Yeah.
Like the Xivu really wants something down there.
Yes.
And is it really explained? It's just they've crashed this into the
yeah, we'll get to it. Yeah, we go through a bunch of like underwater tunnels.
Oh yeah.
we go into this one room still underwater and there's like this
I forgot that
giant fucking hive knight or whatever in there with like a fucking big purple shield and it just bum rushes you underwater and you're like, this is fucked. And then you come out of the room and that's just the boss for the second encounter, but that's how you are introduced to it and it's so funny.
He just kind of springs out like, surprise, motherfuckers.
You basically have to get around it to get in the vent to like blast you back up out of the water. That encounter I really enjoy, primarily because of what I get to do in it. So you didn't get to see this so much because we kind of changed how we ran it after we did it. But the way that we now do this, everyone but me goes into the water. And I should explain how this works. So like, again, symbols are relevant. We've got 3 statues where we need to dunk them. But what'll happen is you kill a bunch of ads, you kill some knights, you kill an ogre, and then it spawns a knight that you have to kill to drop a deep sight thing. Then you reveal that, and then there's some symbols on the wall that will show you the 3 out of 6 hive symbols you need to find, which are in the water under that room, so where you came in through. and then you have to go down there, interact with them, of course, dealing with bubbles and moving around, and the boss is down there trying to beat you up. But every time you interact with one of those symbols, in the room above, it spawns a hive wizard. And you have to kill the wizard to get the vestige to dump it in the statue. You have to do 3 of those to get 2 damage, and rinse repeat until it's done. The way that we now do that when chillybin is in your fire team is everybody else gets in the water, and Chili throws hammers at everything until it's dead. Running syntheseps and disorienting grenades, and I didn't die. And it took 2 hammers to take out one of those wizards.
Yeah, because the issue I was having the first time we ran it was because you guys were downstairs, those wizards would spawn and they'd both just turn and look at me, and I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah. What we should have done is just all got in the water and then all come up and dealt with the wizards, and it would have been a lot easier. Granted, being in the water is pretty stressful because this was also day 1. There were no maps yet. We didn't know where the symbols were ahead of time. We were just doing laps under there until we found them. Which was it was part of why I wanted to be under there. It's just like, I feel like I need to see this. But yeah, the way that, so like by the time we did it the 3rd time, I was so comfortable with that room that, and I found this out accidentally, but I would leave the wizards up, kill them all at once, because you can hold more than one vestige, it turns out.
Yeah.
So I just stack them because you get like a minute, but getting a new one doesn't reset that. So there's a bit of risk there. But I would basically fucking get this lens cap out of here. I'd basically get that last one and then just sit on it while everybody comes back up out of the water, runs around to pick up orbs and ammo and whatever they need before we trigger the damage phase. But yeah, I would basically, every time a circle of ads spawns, disorient a grenade in the middle, throwing hammer, starts a bunch of sunspots, they just start dying. Then I'm going to go do that to the next group that spawned. Oh, there's a wizard, cool, bonk, bonk, dead. And just, so every time I've done it, the report at the end of the dungeon will tell you that I spawned more ads than some people killed. I spawned more orbs than some people killed enemies in the entire dungeon. And that is such a frightening statistic.
Yeah, you shit out orbs, and as someone who is now leaning into orb builds, appreciate it.
Yeah.
But
what you want is someone running Star Eater's scales, right? Because you pick up orbs to do a bunch of damage later.
So I've made a couple of builds since the last episode, and I've kind of been a little bit cheeky in the fact that I've made these builds with you in mind.
Okay, yeah.
So I've got a solar build that very much is I also make orbs, but obviously not as aggressively as you do. But also picking up orbs feeds into different things. Yep. And it's just because I'm I know I can throw this on, have Well of Radiance, have Sanguine Alchemy or Phoenix or something like that. And then just on top of picking up orbs, I'm also building armor charges. I'm also getting my grenade back, which feeds my melee, vice versa, which is then also feeding my super, plus Chili's shitting out orbs. If this build goes according to plan, I could have a well up every couple of minutes, if that.
Yeah.
If you're actively shitting out orbs, I could always have a well on deck because Phoenix also feeds into that. So I'm just
This is the cursed part of my build is a couple of the solar fragments mean that a charged melee kill will generate an orb, and of course the throwing hammer, when you pick it up you just fully get it back, so every one of those is an orb. But once I've got Roaring Flames active, which is just part of one of the aspects, I think, an unpowered melee kill will do the same thing. So when I'm in a circle of dregs or scions or real shit tier ads, I'll throw one throwing hammer to get it started, and then I'm just punch, punch, punch. I can't punch fast enough is the problem. But every one of those is a new orb. And it's frankly disgusting that I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah.
But also, like, the more like ability kills I get, it stacks up to 3 times. It's just extra damage. Like, it's, and then Syntheseps is like, you do extra melee damage when there's a bunch of enemies around you, to the point where, so you know the boss in that second encounter. So my new strat for that: tractor cannon and throwing hammers. And I'm hitting between 70 and 100k per hammer. And also, tractor cannon is giving that damage buff to everyone else, so it's just generally useful.
Unhinged.
Yeah, just like shotgun, bonk, 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 bonk. Reapply tractor cannon, bonk, 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 bonk. It's so good. The next evolution of that is a shotgun with 1-2 punch, just to like push those numbers up even higher. And I have a few.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say you already have a few because that's one of your favorite perks.
Yeah. 1-2 punch lead from gold. Like that's my favorite combo on a shotgun, because you don't have to worry about ammo. You have to worry about like running heavy finders, which I'm doing anyway. And then 1-2 punch to make melee go dumb.
Yes.
Yes. But yeah, that boss fight is basically like a big knight spawns, you kill it, it drops a pool of like green energy that gives you piercing light, I think is the name of the buff, which is what you need to break its shield. You don't need to be standing in the pool, but you need to like refresh it because it's got a timer on it. That gets introduced here, and then you use it again in the boss fight. And I think, that was from Wrathborn Hunts, right? Like you would have to...
Something like that, yeah. You had to
kill something,
get in the pool to crack the shield.
Crack the shield, yeah. And that's that second encounter. There is a hair. Got it. I don't know where that came from. It was just like floating down in front of my eyes. It was definitely a dog hair. It's just, I think, me waving my arms around. It's just like loosed it off my sleeve. Loosened it. I finished my strong 0, and my words are hard. The strongest of zeros. So yeah,
me.
So
the strongest 0.
Second encounter is done. More traversal. More like we're getting deeper and deeper into the hive architecture at this point. And then we come across the boss arena, come out of a cave, and you see Oryx's entire corpse just half buried.
Another Meckii meme theory comes to fruition.
But even then, there was a moment when you first saw it, you're like, is that Oryx? And we're like, yeah, homie, that's fucking Oryx.
The way I saw it, and I think like it was your Alex when you got into where I was standing, you're like, I could see how you think. The way I saw it was his rib cage was like the mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And then his head and his hand was the rest of, and originally I thought it was like the corpse of like one of Arce's species. Because the ribs looked like teeth and I didn't see it. And you guys are going, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah.
And like Alex is losing his mind, just like, are you fucking kidding me? And I'm like, yeah, it's a whale. It's whaleful. And you guys are like, what the fuck are you on?
Hive whales? Nuh-uh.
It was like one of those seeing eye puzzles where when I stood back, I was,
You're like, you're here with it. And then you were like,
that's a whole man's.
Oh, that's just Oryx. What was I looking at?
And then I was like, holy shit, I was joking since Witch Queen. I just got the person wrong, but I was joking, and I've joked multiple times on this podcast that they were going to drop Savathûn in the bottom of the ocean like Megatron.
Yeah.
And it just turns out they did it to Oryx.
Yes. Yeah, this is probably the best.
Bin Laden Oryx.
This is probably the best time to bring this up. There are a bunch of people on the internet in the last week being like, but he fell from the dreadnought towards Saturn. And of course, Titan is a moon of Saturn.
Yeah.
And people being like, there's no way he would fall there. The physics don't make sense. And like, homie, if that's your argument, like, lighten up. Also, it is entirely possible that due to gravitational pulls of various celestial bodies around there, could have ended up on Titan. Who are you to say? Yeah. Also, it's just very interesting. Leave it alone. It's entertainment.
It's fun. The man became whaleful. Like,
Yeah.
he's at the bottom of the ocean.
He's just there, and that's fine. And
It's a fun reveal.
yes, it really was. Because the boss that is just sitting there above Oryx's body is, I forget the exact name, but it's like taken necromancer. And that is where like the ritual that Sloan was referring to at the start of the dungeon is kind of revealed of like, yeah, that motherfuckers are trying to resurrect Oryx right here.
Yeah, there's a little bit of discussion around like, oh, so Savathun had the light.
Mm-hmm.
So are they trying to imbue Oryx with the light so he becomes essentially a guardian as well?
And this is where like when you come into that room, like Oryx's body,
is there some sort of hive magic that we don't know about? That
maybe, but also Oryx's body in the ground, necromancer in the air, a hive ghost is just sitting there.
Yeah.
So are they trying to like, is the ritual to try and make that ghost Oryx's? Is that what's happening? What are we doing?
It's super interesting, and it also has so many implications if the hive have figured out how to imbue or use the hive ghosts. Like
this could also just be an extension of Savathun's kind of systems, and like this could be her doing, is what I mean. Like we're not. I don't know if they actually say that like this was something Ziva or Wrath was trying to achieve. I'm not sure.
I think they just loosely allude that the hive are up to something. Yeah, it's just the vague the hive.
Yes. But God, what a reveal. And also like all of the armor that you drop from the dungeon is like something of the Taken King or the Taken King's helm or whatever the fuck.
Creepy, crusty fucking armor.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It all looks very cool. And it's got like some cool like ambient effects on it. Such a sick dungeon. But yeah, the way that this works mechanically is, I think I was like having this discussion during one of the runs of like, you know, they introduce the mechanic, they add to it, and then they remix the previous two encounters for the boss fight. So it's the Hive Guardians are like in back rooms off that central arena that you have to go through like these water gates to get to. But there's a whole process to even get to that. But you have to essentially kill the Guardians to like get the vestige to drop in a place and do that 3 times to get to a damage phase. It's not worth going into the mechanics, but like it is very interesting once you figure out how it all works and the sequence you do it in.
The mechanics are very intricate for that encounter, and they're quite, when you're explaining it, it's quite detailed and it sounds quite tedious. But then when you get in, even on the first run, when we got into the rhythm of it, those setup phases would actually go very quickly once you guys got into the rhythm of it.
The deep sight is a bit more prevalent here because like you use that to reveal the 3 parts of the map where you have to dunk the vestige, and then
so it's, what is it, head, chest, hands, and
head, shoulders, knees, and toes. No, head, chest, hands, and feet.
Yes.
There's 6 points in the map that can be active.
Sneeze interrupted me on that one.
Yeah, 6 points in the map that can be active as a place to put the vestige, but only 3 are used per run, which correlates to the 3 Hive Guardians in the corners of the map, which each have a hive symbol associated. You've got to match the symbols, dunk the thing, do a damage phase. There's been a lot of commentary about how much fucking health that boss and its shield in particular have. I will say, pretty meaty. It got to a point where I was running Gallahorn and that was helping. The last run that I did on Tuesday, I think it was, we had a classic well-div Warlock, and did that help?
Yeah, because after we finished our run, I was like, probably could have used a well on that. Hey.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like
Nova was taking off a fair chunk of.
It was helping, but like.
But that fucker teleported out of my Nova like twice. I was like, you asshole.
And I think too, we were basically always setting up for damage inside Oryx's chest, which means we've got walls all around us.
And
which
we're
is
being focused,
maybe not the best decision. I don't know, but it's reliable because then you don't have enemies coming in from behind you, which is kind of nice. But it does mean
that also,
you're starting stationary in there.
Yeah, and then old mate would teleport either out of range or for some reason teleport right up in our faces, which made using rocket launchers and even Nova Bomb really risky.
I think the thing I kind of
So
struggled with was, especially when the boss was up close, but this happened kind of in all variations, just like explosions and effects going off meant I couldn't even see where the boss was clearly. And I was like, I think they're here. I'm getting numbers, so I must be hitting.
yeah, well, like at one point when we were doing it, all I could see was fire, and I'm like, I'm just gonna throw a fucking Nova. I don't know where he is, but I hope it tracks.
Yeah, but because like when you get into that damage phase, it's like that second encounter where it drops the piercing light pull. You just need that to break the shield, and then you are actually free to move anywhere in the arena, which I ended up doing a lot more the more I did it, because it'd be like, oh, I'm kind of getting beat up here. I need to get some sunspots happening to trigger, restoration. I'm just going to go find those dregs, hit one, stand in the sunspot, do some damage, move around a bit more, and that was kind of helping. It also helped that in the runs that I did after our one, I started running Phoenix Cradle, which is Titan leg exotic.
Yeah,
that means sunspots heal allies.
Yeah,
and that was huge because they also last for 10 seconds. So you run through it, you get 10 seconds of restoration. And it's just like, cool, your health is just constantly refilling. Buys you a lot of time.
Yeah, shit, yeah.
Because it's a very good like neutral game, but mobile exotic. Because like as you're moving through getting the symbols and everything, like you're constantly running through that arena. And there's just enemies all the time. All I have to do is like kill one with a throwing hammer, drops a sunspot, everyone just runs through it, keeps going, make it through that arena without dying as much. So nice. Can't believe I'm running Phoenix Cradle again. What a world.
What is this, Beyond Light?
Yeah. And the funny, I think, that's kind of like largely wrapping up the dungeon, but the funniest thing to me is the second and third encounter, so the second one and then the boss fight, you have to crush the ghost after you've downed the boss, otherwise you're not finished.
Yeah.
And the panic when we realized that, just like, fuck, get over there, hit the finisher button. Yes, so funny. And I also saw some reports that especially with the second encounter, if you let them resurrect, it can soft lock you. So I'm glad we never had to deal with that.
No, thank you.
But yeah, overall, very good dungeon.
Very good dungeon.
Pretty brutal in spots, but I would say that's also like, it's the first couple of times we've seen it, so that makes sense.
It definitely feels like how Duality became for us for a little bit, which was just a brain off farm dungeon for a little bit. I can see once we get used to it, and once like I've got a few builds in mind that I want to throw together and test in terms of different encounters there.
Even that second and third run, it was me and Alex again, plus a different third person each time. Even that second and third run, we were so comfortable with the mechanics and positioning and everything that like it was very easy for someone new to slot in and kind of like have space to figure it out without needing to be like, you need to know how to do this specific thing right now or we won't get through this. It was very much like, and this is something that like I've started doing recently with dungeons, which is reminding myself that they are designed to be completed solo. And that really changes how I look at mechanics and how they interact. And like when I found out that vestiges can stack, that you can hold up to 3 of them, I would never do that solo because I need that time. But running it in a group, I'm just going to leave those wizards up. I'm just going to farm kills and then I'm just going to go bonk, 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 dunk them.
Bing bonk, bing, bing bonk.
That's me. I am the bink bonker.
Just you giving me the giggles anytime your hammer would come across my screen.
Yeah, like
you just hear me lose it.
Well, this is the thing, like because I've been running that build so exclusively for so long, I have become like a fucking surgeon with that hammer. Like I'm hitting that shit across the map in a way that I am disgusted by. Where I'm like, the enemy, like half the time the enemy will dodge, but when they don't, that feels real nice.
I just find it so funny. Sometimes I'll run up to something to finish it and your hammer will just cut through them. I'm like, okay, never mind.
The funniest one to me, that second encounter, the ogre that you have to kill at the top of the room to like, it spawns the knight that gives you the deep sight to reveal the symbols before you go and do that. Some like in the later runs that I did, someone was like busy trying to whittle that ogre's health down, and I just throw one throwing hammer and it's just gone. Because I've done it standing in a crowd of enemies to get the damage boost off Syntheseps, and then I've just launched it over. And an ogre is a big target. That's easy to hit. Just straight in the face.
They don't teleport.
No.
So.
That's my favorite shit
so
to do.
Funny. Or my other favorite thing when you do it, not even just in the dungeon, just in general, is like I'll be shooting something and I'll see your hammer land. And you'll just come trotting over, pick it up, and then run back out of frame.
Yeah, because if I don't, it actually, like, that is the entire loop. I need that thing.
So I'll just be, like, mowing down enemies with, like, an auto rifle or a submachine gun, or just the thing you hate the most, raw slapping them.
I do that. It's fine. But I get a lot of damage for it.
And I'll just see you just potter over, pick up your hammer, and run away.
Like,
it's so funny.
It's good.
I need to start recording us playing so I can just cut together a montage of you and your hammer.
Well, the thing is, and I know this is going to keep happening because it's just the way the game works, but I still get heartbroken every time I throw a hammer, the enemy dodges or I've just missed, and then it goes off the map, and then I've just got to I have to just wait for my melee to recharge, and I'm just like, no, my hammer. And
yeah,
like that is almost an automatic
reason.
Response at this point of like, oh no.
That's another reason I think one day we're just going to get tippled and play a bunch of Destiny, and I'm just going to do a super cut of you and your hammer and just you like, my hammer.
Yeah. And then,
no.
And like intersperse it with photos of me like looking longingly at a hammer, just like, my one true love.
Goes off map and just in slow motion as it flies off the map in the arms of the angels.
Look, I have done some risky maneuvers to pick my hammer up.
I've seen you run in the middle of clusterfucks with bosses and pick a hammer up and get stomped.
The difference there is I know if I get to the hammer and it has to have hit an enemy, but if I pick that hammer up, my health starts regenerating immediately. So it's almost like I just need to get that far, and then I can throw it at something else and then run away while my health is refilling.
So funny just to see you run between the legs of a primeval and pick a hammer up and then bail out.
My favorite thing is if I'm able to slide between the legs of a big enemy. That's funny. I'm just like, mine. I'll see you later.
Add that to the list of promo ideas for ECB social media.
It's me on a slip and slide with a hammer at the end of it.
Just a super cut of you and your hammer.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think this is a dungeon that I'm going to do a whole bunch.
Well, I am, because I want that fucking title because it's so on brand for me as a human being.
What is the title again?
Ghoul.
That's right. Yeah, so that means you will have to learn how to run it solo.
And I will for this because I want that title so fucking bad. Holy shit.
Yeah. The nice thing is, like, it's not a flawless requirement. You just have to finish it. But it does mean you have to be able to do each encounter without dying. Because if you die, you have to start it again.
But
that's hard.
Another reason I want that ghoul title, just to stay on brand with ECB, is because I have a Twitch clip of you calling me a ghoul when we were doing strike golf, and I was following you around trying to make you kill enemies with a arc soul. And you say, God, get away from me, you fucking ghoul.
I do not even remember this. I remember playing strike golf.
As soon as you told us that the title was ghoul, I was like, that's just me.
That's very good, actually.
Like, if they had a goblin title, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
But ghoul is also very on brand for me because I am a scary little Victorian era ghoul.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like if they were to use goblin for anything, it would be a Vex-centric season because they already have goblins. But then, like, the goblins are never featured that heavily.
Maybe this year's Festival of the Lost, so then we've got goblins and ghouls.
That would be cool.
I should work for Bungie. I've been coming up with lots of very good ideas lately for Bungie, and I've been tweeting them at Bungie.
We just give them away for free. Don't do that.
Yeah. I just want people to know that I'm very good at ideas. I still like my tweet.
I want people to know that I'm very funny on Twitter. I'm not. I don't tweet much
Love
at all.
me.
Please, validation. Dungeon. Yep.
Dungeons, titles, story.
Yep.
Fuckery.
ECB.
ECB.
That's what we do. Final note. This week it's Iron Banner, but they've already broken it.
I saw that today. Hey, so we've had to turn off control and it's gone back to eruption.
No, before that, they disabled Kepri's Horn, a Titan exotic, because I mean Cheese Forever put out a video of it, but like people were using that to basically just speedrun their way to mercying a game out in a victory. Like I saw the clip and like it was just like a stream of just captured zone messages and they just got immediately 20 points. And they were just doing that.
So I didn't know what was going on. I jumped into an Iron Banner game where I think someone did that.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck? I've this game loaded in like 2 minutes. What the fuck? Like, and then I was like, oh, whatever. Like, part of me didn't realize what was happening. So part of me was like, oh, maybe I loaded in mid-game. Like maybe they were getting crushed. So someone dropped out and I got loaded in. So then I loaded it into another one and it happened again. And I was like, so IB, not on my list this week of things to do because that's happened twice now and I'm scared. Less angry, more like, I don't know what's happening, so I'm scared.
Yeah.
I almost had a panic attack. I was like,
first it was Kepri's Horn. They disabled that. And then they changed Iron Banner from control to eruption to just like remove any chance of people being able to do that. So I'm guessing there was some like more generic issue at play there with like zone capturing that was causing that to happen. But very funny. Like I need to go and actually watch that clip more closely to work out why that was happening.
There's just like it happening to me. I've got a friend who's traveling at the moment and he paid for Wi-Fi at a hotel, like good Wi-Fi at a hotel so that he could play Destiny.
Oh my God.
Because it's IB week.
Yeah.
Only for that to happen.
Fuck.
And him in the group server be like, what the fuck is happening with Iron Banner right now? I can't get a game.
Yeah.
And then like 30 seconds later, he follows it up with, oh, ... and then a screenshot of the tweets from Bungie Help.
Yeah.
He's like, I spent $40 on Wi-Fi in this fucking hotel.
Which country is this in?
Germany.
Okay. I mean, Germany has decent internet, but yeah.
Yeah, but hotel Wi-Fi, you got to pay extra, especially when you're staying in budget hotels. Yeah. But yeah, he's just like, oh, ... I'm so glad I spent $40 to play Iron Banner this week.
Yeah, that's a hard time.
Rip.
And like back to our Pinnacle chat from before, I don't think I'm going to play Iron Banner this season because like the only reason I kind of went hard on it last season, it provided a lot of Pinnacles. Like you would get 4 out of it and it lasts for a week. Like that's pretty good.
I want to guild Iron Lord again, I think.
Just
because I've guilded it, so I'm like, I want to do it again.
I personally don't care enough about any of the PvP options to do that, and like Iron Banner is probably one of the ones I enjoy the most, but the amount it wants you to play Iron Banner is more than I care to.
Kind of wacky, yeah. I get that.
I am much more a PvE player, and there's things like soloing dungeons I want to learn how to do. A little more build crafting to like, increase those options. And yeah, PvP is not high on my list. I'll do a little bit of it here and there, but like, not much. It's just not my bag.
Yeah. I'm going to try and guild it again because it's funny watching people be like, Meckii gilding things.
Yeah, Meckii completing something.
Anything. It's really funny. I guilded, so there's a couple of servers I'm in now that have a bot that lets you know when something's happening. I think they use Charlemagne as well. I'm not sure. I'd have to look. And in the other server, when I guilded Iron Lord, I just got a reply message from someone that said, "You okay?" ?
Dude,
because they know what I'm like. Because he is just as frustrated with my pigeon brain as you are.
That has just reminded me when Beyond Light came out. A bunch of us took time off work. We basically were playing because this was back when like we had to do bounty stacking and grinding every day to get a raid level, right?
Rip our employers who all took us off being stood down just for us to take a week off to play video games anyway.
But what that meant is like, I think on release day or the day after, because there were some server issues, like I think I clocked up like a 16-hour day. Because I didn't close it down. I just left it running, and like I'd go get food and I'd come back to it because like I had work to do, frankly. But I got a message from someone who I had not spoken to in a while at that point, and they were just like, "Hey, is everything okay?" I've just seen. I'm basically just going like, "Hey, I've seen how much you're playing this game this week. Are you all right?" It's just like
witnessing my depression spiral.
Yeah, but this is someone who's like familiar with MMOs and things like that. So it's like, yeah, there's a group of us, like we've taken time off work. We're preparing for the raid. Means we have to do a bunch of bullshit grinding tasks. And he was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Also, like launch day, I have a stream of...
We were sitting there like fucking, what, 5 in the morning just losing
You and I have stream mods where they're 3 hours long, and I think an hour of those 3 hours us slowly unraveling as we kept getting this, like, the could not join. Like
sitting in a server queue, just waiting.
Just chatting absolute shit, and you fucking around with OBS settings, like...
That's right.
We descended chaos at like 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, man. What a time.
I think, without going too far ahead of ourselves, I think I want to do that again for Final Shape. I think I want to take some time off.
Yeah.
I want to sit up at 2 o'clock in the morning with some beers and my homies and just slowly lose our minds as we try to join the game.
Well, I mean, it won't launch until it's usually 3 for us, so that's an hour that we're just wasting.
So, like, just us just slowly unraveling mentally as we try to get into the game.
I'm gonna put down a solid maybe on that one. I would like to, but I don't know where I'll be come whatever it is, probably February or March next year.
Hopefully,
I'll still be in Melbourne.
Hopefully I'd move down there by then, and we can do it in LAN format.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
We all bring our PCs and a monitor to someone's house and unravel together.
Yeah, we couldn't do that in my place. My partner would hate that.
We all sit close enough in a room so when we talk, our headsets and microphones all do that terrible woo woo woo.
Oh, you hear the feedback happening?
Yeah.
Everyone except me, who's running a shotgun microphone. It was like, no, everything from here out, no one's hearing that. We'd be like, over here making noise. No, you can't even hear this. Not even picking up.
Oh, nothing. Man, it's like whenever people post online their quote-unquote couple setups, and I'm like, that is a nightmare.
Well, like the side-by-side PC?
That is a nightmare.
I've been on video calls with people who play games that way. It is shit.
It's terrible. You can pick each other up, and then sometimes you get stuck in a feedback loop, and then it makes that terrible whoomp noise.
Mm.
And then also, like, I don't want to sit in my partner's stink during, like, a heavy gaming session. You know what I mean?
Have a separate room.
Drinking Monster Energy drink, eating food, farting, sweating. Like, I don't want to... I got my own aura going. I don't need yours in the mix.
You basically just described a lot of my day today because it's Diablo 4 launch week.
Exactly. I don't want to sit in that. Even if you're my partner.
You want to do a LAN for Final Shape.
Yeah, but like, I'm going to sit in the corner and no one look at me.
You're in your own, you've like brought a tent and you're just in that.
Yeah, like a kid's fucking bluey tent. It's just me, my PC, and a single monitor sitting prawn style.
But you've cut like one hole in the tent so the PC can vent out.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just hotboxing yourself.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
The vents with the tents with the little vents up the top. So anytime any of you piss me off, you'll just see my this much of my face.
Oi. Oh dear.
I miss the days of LANs, so I've been finding any excuse to try and set a LAN up.
I haven't done one since I was in high school when
Halo 3 was my last LAN. Actually, no, I used to have Minecraft LANs, but that was like 2017.
This was like a kid I knew at school. His parents' house had like, you know, not a double car garage, but like wider than that. So it was like Imagine in the middle, there's 4 CRT TVs in like a compass configuration facing out, and then 4 couches, and then 4 Xboxes, and we're all playing. It was a full 16-player Halo 3 LAN, and it was sick as shit.
So, Destiny 2 related, or Destiny related, when Taken King, like the raid came out, Crota, Oryx.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting the name of that raid. Kingsfall.
Yes.
Not
Crota's End. Well, there's Crota's End, but then there's Kingsfall.
Yeah. I almost went to say Game of Thrones because there's a place in Game of Thrones called Kingsfall or something like that.
King's
and then
Landing.
I almost called the raid Game of Thrones.
At
the time, my partner and I, because we played a bunch of D&D and other stuff, we bought a big Viking style long table. So a big long table with big bench seating. And we just shitty old Samsung monitors on top of our PS4s, headsets. Everyone had one cup off because we were just communicating in person.
Yeah.
And it was just three people to a seat. And then we just had lines of snacks and shit in the middle.
God.
I'll have to find pictures of it. Surely they're on Facebook or something. But it just looked like a Viking feast. Like we were all just sitting there in gamer mode.
Gamers.
Me in like a Snuggie, like we were all just wearing, I mean, I still wear oversized hoodies. Look at me right now. But just giant hoodies just sitting there. And then because the picture was taken on like an old Samsung Note, we've all got the scary reflective eyes because we're all just sitting in the dark and I've used the flash. Yes. So we just all look like fucking
possums.
The things from, The Descent. Those we're all sitting there pale with glowing eyes. I'll have to find the picture if I can, but like that might be my last LAN actually is Kingsfall.
Yeah, I mean, we all just play games online now via Discord. Like we don't have a need for that anymore. It's more of a like you have to really want to do this and put in a bunch of effort.
Yeah. I mean, Minecraft LANs are kind of fun. There's something fun and cozy about like just hanging out all night in your pajamas playing Minecraft in like the same room.
Okay. Without that in the same room, but we have done that. We have done that
multiple times.
Like during Destiny downtime where it's like the lull in a season where we're like, let's just do something else. It'll be a Minecraft.
The sun's coming up in game. No, in real life.
Oops. Oops.
Code Blueberry LAN, one day we'll stream it. We talk about our other fire team members so much that it's inevitable that we do have to do an ECB like stream sometime.
We have to do something, yeah.
Go park that Twitch channel. ECB_TTV.
I'm not changing my name in the game to that.
Oh no, I'll set up an email account and park the channel.
We've said it now. Fuck, I'm gonna have to cut this out. On that note, let's get out of here before you say more stuff I have to cut out and domains to park and whatever.
I'll try and do it tonight. I'll have to go set up a Google account.
Yeah. There might be some other stuff I've already got set up. We'll talk after.
Sick. Just dump it in the general.
Dump it. Show me that email dumper. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's get out of here. This has been Erico Blueberry. Thank you, as always, for checking it out. Spread the word. Spread the love. Spread the error code. No, that's bad. We won't have an episode for you next week. This is the first time I can say this with conviction. It's not going to be like, hey, some stuff came up. We can't do an episode this week. We will definitely not have one next week because I'm going to be in another country.
New Zealand. I'm just doxing you.
Yeah, no,
I think you've mentioned you're from New Zealand in the past anyway.
The
also, accent and tattoos.
Yeah.
Kind of gives it away.
Going back to Aotearoa, the land of the long white cloud, where all of my family is, because I haven't seen them in a good 3.5 years, I think. And I now have a niece that I haven't met.
I'm so fucking excited for you to finally go back.
Yes, I am planning to go and visit a toy store in the next couple of days and pick up probably like my niece is all about animals, so it'll probably be either an Australian animal plush toy or some like book about Australian animals that will no doubt annoy the shit out of my brother. As he says, she likes to make the noises of the animals, so What noise does a wombat make?
They don't, but get her a koala and then just show her the sounds of koalas screaming late at night.
That could be good.
The sound of Queensland, where
yeah,
when I had friends come over from the UK, we were all sitting on the balcony of like their Airbnb, and the koalas and stuff started going off, and they were just like, "What the fuck is that?" I mean, they thought they were dead.
I've already threatened that by the end of my week there, I will have her saying "G'day, champ" like a degenerate. Because apparently she's like a bit of a parrot and like has enough words that she's able to just like, replicate sounds. So that'll be fun.
Yes, good.
But yes, no episode next week, which gives you 2 weeks to tell your friends about us. It gives us 2 weeks of seasonal content to talk about next time. We've managed to turn this one into a long one. I didn't expect it. A lot of dungeon. That'll do it. We'll see you next time in at least 2 weeks. I'm going to go find out what that noise was.
Don't go.
Bye.
See ya.